Hello and welcome to another edition of the Lanzarote News and Weather. I'm Mike from Lanzarote Information. Thankfully, it's been a quieter week news-wise this week, so unlike the 2 or 3 previous weeks, I don't need to rush through this bulletin to try and get everything in. But make sure you stay tuned until the end, because at the end of this short video, I'll be giving you 3 things you could be doing on the island next week, and somewhere in the middle, I'll be giving you your useful Spanish phrase of the week. And let's start off, as always, with the weather update for you. And it's not been good, to be honest. Last weekend was lovely. Monday and Tuesday it rained here, and it's really unusual for it to rain in Lanzarote in July. And it was also really unusual rain because we had basically drizzle, and that's something that very rarely happens here. Normally when it rains we get a short, sharp, heavy shower and then it finishes and everything returns back to normal. But basically Monday and Tuesday were pretty dismal. Midweek the rain went away, but then it just became kind of dull and overcast, quite humid and hot. The upside, probably as you can see from the sun streaming in through the skylight here, is that today it's looking much better and the forecast for the next few days is looking good as well. And don't get me wrong, it's been hot, so it's been lovely beach weather even when we've had cloudy days. And bear in mind that the ultraviolet component of the sun does go through clouds, so you will burn. It's very, very high at the moment. And I know Julie was talking to somebody in an exercise class yesterday who had been quite badly burned over the weekend, over the early part of the week, despite the cloud cover. So do take care, wear good quality sun cream. So on with the news, and the biggest news this week was the truck that almost ended up on the beach in Papagayo. And this was a septic tank pumping truck that was pumping the septic tank at a restaurant, the restaurant that kind of sits on the cliff top at Papagayo. And then it was either a misjudgment by the driver, we don't know for sure, but most of the papers are suggesting that part of the cliff collapsed under it. And it kind of fell down part of the way, but fortunately not all the way onto the beach. But it was impossible for the driver to recover it and bring the vehicle back up. It took a lot of debris down onto the beach with it. The emergency services closed that particular beach, one of 5 at Papagayo. And this happened on Thursday, by the way, and a specialist removal team arrived on Friday to pull it out of the area and that it had fallen in. But it was all quite scary. Fortunately, no one below on the beach was injured, and the driver himself wasn't injured either. So it kind of had a happy ending, but it could have been much more disastrous. Next up, Yaiza Ayuntamiento, which is the one that of course includes Playa Blanca, has decided that they're going to seek citizen feedback on their next municipal plan. And this is the plan for what they're going to do over the next few years within the municipality. And if you live in Playa Blanca or you own a property there, they would be delighted to hear from you. And what they've done is create a questionnaire, which I have to say is only in Spanish, but obviously you can use Google Translate or any other translation service if you don't speak good enough Spanish to do this. If you visit their website, which is yaiza.es, yaiza.es, you'll see a banner at the top of their homepage which takes you to the questionnaire. And the questionnaire is 14 questions long, and it asks you all sorts of information about what you would like to see happen in the municipality over the next few years. And this will inform their big municipal plan, of course. Now, I've been complaining about the water supply on the island over the last few years. And that is as a result of one big part of the desalination plant in Arrecife basically breaking down and becoming unserviceable. And that's led to, over that whole period, real shortage of water, particularly in rural areas of the island, like the one we live in, Aria. We only get mains water about 40% of the time here. Now, it isn't a huge issue for us, for example, because we have a big water tank that stores water and it just refills when the mains comes back on. But for people with either no water tank or very small water tanks, It really does cause them a problem. The good news this week is that a load of new membranes have been installed within the existing desalination plant, which when they're switched on Monday or Tuesday of next week, will increase the water supply by 15%. Now that's still not enough, and we're still going to be about 10% behind demand, but it will improve things. There is also that original desalination plant section that went down is also going to be replaced over the next year or so, which should give us back up to 100% capacity, or in fact it will be a little bit over 100%, but that can deal with maintenance and things like that. And while we're talking about energy, let's talk about wind farms. You may know, if you've been visiting the island regularly, that there have been more wind turbines installed over the last couple of years. The good news is those wind turbines, when the wind is blowing, which it often is here, can now generate about 35% of the electricity needs of the island. So we've gone from something like 12% maybe 5 or 6 years ago coming from renewable energy now to at times 35%. So that's real progress, and I'm really pleased to see that. And the more clean energy we can get here, the better. Now here's your useful Spanish phrase of the week, and it's all about time. It's how do you give people a time? So for example, you're booking a table at a restaurant, and the person that you're speaking to at the restaurant's reception is saying, well, what time do you want? A que hora? And this is how you would reply to them. You would say, and it's very simple, you would say a las ocho. So that would be 8 o'clock, a las ocho. So whenever you're giving someone a time, it's the simplest 2 words you need to remember. It's a las and then the number. So your homework for this weekend is to make sure you know all the Spanish numbers from 1 to 12, because once you've mastered those, you can use them every day. And all you need to do is append in front of them the very simple words a las and then the number. So a las una, a las dos, a las tres, a las cuatro, and so on and so forth. But I hear you ask, what happens if it's not on the hour? Well, it actually becomes really quite simple, because all you have to do is add the word y, which of course means and then you can add whatever number after it. So you could, for example, say a las 8:10. That would be at 8 and 10, which literally means 10 past 8. If you want to say 8:15, you could say a las 8:15, but it would be easier to say a las 8:15, which is 8:15. And again, going around the clock, if you go to half past, half is media in Spanish. So you would say a las 8:30. So that's at 8:30, literally 8:30. You can go the other way if you want to, but it's probably easier just to remember the E. So if you wanted to say at 10:50, you could say a las 10:50. That's your useful Spanish phrase of this week. Let's move on with the news, and we had the stats in for June, which was a sort of okay month weather-wise, but windier than I would have liked. And it's interesting to note that Aria in the north of the island recorded the highest temperature of the month. And overall, the average temperature for the month was the 6th highest since records began here. I mention this for a couple of reasons, and one of them is that there is a myth that it's cooler in the north of Lanzarote than it is in the south, and that really is a myth. It very much depends on which way the wind is blowing, and quite often the north of the island records the highest temperatures, particularly in the summer months. In the winter months, they tend to record the cooler temperatures. Now, those of you who've been watching our videos for a few months will know that we shot one, I guess it was about 6 months ago at Marina Lanzarote in Arrecife, which is the big boat marina in the capital. And one of the things I said was that the boat part of the marina has been very successful since it opened. But the shopping part of it has always really struggled. And I know that they've got 84 units there, but a lot of them were empty, and I commented on that fact. The marina was built by and was owned by Puerto Calero Marinas, or Calero Marinas as the company is called. So the same people that originally built Puerto Calero. And what's interesting is that they announced this week that they have sold the majority stake in the business. And two new companies have come in, one which is an investment company, the other which is a specialist marina company, and they've taken a majority holding in it. So Calero Marinas still own, I think it's about 20%, but they won't be in control of the business anymore. So it will be interesting to see if these new companies bring new ideas and are able to revitalise the shopping aspect of the marina. I'll keep an eye on it and I will keep you posted, of course. We also had the stats through from the most recent census of the island's population. And it's risen now to, let me just check the numbers, 175,900. So that's a significant increase. I mean, in my head, we were around the 168,000 mark last time I saw these numbers. And the breakdown by municipality is quite interesting. I'm going to need to read this off my iPad because I can't remember all these numbers. Arrecife, as you would expect, has the highest number, 71,700. The one with the smallest number is the one I'm sitting in, Aria, which only has just over 6,000. And the sort of three middle ones, Taguise, Tias and San Bartolome, are all very, very similar. They're around between 22,900 and 24,700 people. Yaitza a little way behind, which includes Playa Blanca, of course, at under 20,000. And Tinajo is much closer to Aria. They have around 7,000. So that's quite a big increase in population. And obviously, well, not obviously, but the majority of the population increase on this island over the last 20 years has been through immigration, and that is still the case. And the foreign-born percentage of the population increases year on year, and it's around about a third of that total of 175,900 now are foreign-born, not non-Canarians. And the final news story, and stay tuned because we're going to the three things you could be doing on the island next week in a moment. But the final story is a Ryanair one. And it's a horrible story. This Ryanair had a flight that was departing Madrid for Lanzarote towards the end of last week. And their aircraft typically holds 180 people, so I guess there were 180 passengers. And there was an initial delay to boarding the flight of about 2 hours, so they waited for it. Then they were boarded onto the aircraft, and they sat on the aircraft on the stand. Well, I don't think Ryanair used stands, so perhaps on the apron, for another 2 hours before they were finally told by the Ryanair staff that it wasn't possible for the aircraft to take off. And I saw somewhere that it was because Lanzarote Airport closes and the final arrival would have been after 1 a.m. These things happen, and there might have been a technical issue, there might have been a crew hours issue. I don't know what the answer to the problem is. What was so poor was the way Ryanair dealt with this situation, because we all know that they are obliged, when an aircraft doesn't fly, to provide food vouchers and accommodation for the passengers who are left stranded at 11, 12 o'clock at night at an airport. They didn't do any of that, and apparently they didn't have staff on the ground to handle it. And they basically left everyone to their own devices, saying, I'm really sorry, we can't help you with accommodation, we can't help you with food, but you can make a claim on the Ryanair website afterwards and when you get to your destination. Now, what most of them ended up doing was sleeping on the floor or on benches in the airport overnight and getting a flight the next day. But it's just appalling of Ryanair to abandon people like that. And I think it's a really cynical decision they've taken, because they probably know that the majority of people, having got through the night and got to wherever they were going, won't bother to make any kind of claim on the Ryanair website. They haven't had to fund hotels. They haven't had to pay for food vouchers for them. And even those that do actually submit a claim, if they can work their way through the claims process on the Ryanair site, won't have spent much, because they didn't want to spend the money out first and claim it back. So shame on you, Ryanair, for that. And it's one of the reasons we don't fly with them. They offer a great service when everything works well, but when things go wrong, they really often let people down. Okay, enough of my ranting. Let's talk about the three things you could be doing if you're on the island over the next 7 days or so. And the first takes place on Saturday the 11th. For most of you watching this, that's probably today. And this is the Summer Fest in Arrecife, and this takes place on the beach at Playa del Reducto. And it's always a start to the summer party that takes place, and there's live bands on, there's a big stage there, there are DJs playing music, and there's just a lovely party atmosphere on the beach with everyone celebrating the real start of summer in the capital. Entry is completely free, you can just rock up there. It starts at 6 p.m. and finishes at midnight. Now the next one is on Monday the 14th, and this is the first of the Cenas de una noche verano, summer night dinners you would say in English. And this is an absolutely brilliant event that takes place every summer here. And it takes place at the Chiringuito, which is the kind of restaurant cafe on the promenade in Playa Blanca. And what happens over 16 days is that 16 of the island's top chefs will cook a standard meal for everyone who's bought tickets. Now the first one of these, as I said, takes place on Monday the 14th, and the chef for that one is João Faraco. Now João runs the restaurant Coentro in Puerto Calero. He's a Brazilian originally, but has been living here for a number of years. And he's one of the chefs I most admire on the island. I've even had a cooking lesson with him in the past. So I'm not going to be able to do this one, unfortunately, but we did João's last year and it was a superb night out. Now I'm going to read some of the menu for you, just to give you a flavour of what kind of thing the chefs do at these summer night dinners. And João's is inspired by the traditional cooking of Lanzarote, but with some new ideas. And he starts off with aperitifs of the house. He's got some octopus cooked in cilantro. He has tuna adobo, so that's tuna in a sort of Canarian adobo. He's doing churne with salad of the house. He's doing some fried fish as well with black rice. So these are, as I say, set menus, but really high quality. They really put a lot of effort into them. Let me just go backwards a minute and check what the cost is. It's 63 euros per person, and generally they include wines as well. For this and anything else, go to lanzaroteinformation.co.uk. Click the What's On button, and then you can scroll through the different events coming up. When you come across these summer night dinners, it will take you to a page which gives you much more information, but also a link to where you can visit the organiser's website and book a ticket if you want to. And finally, next Friday the 18th, it's the inaugural party for Arrecife en Vivo. And Arrecife en Vivo is just a brilliant live music event that takes place in Arrecife every year. And again, it's over a number of weeks, and there are lots of super top quality bands and DJs that play, and you kind of move around the resort following a little drum band that takes you from one venue to the next. Now, the inauguration party starts next Friday at 6 o'clock in the evening. Like the most of the other events that take place around Arrecife en Vivo, it's free to go to. And there are some really top local acts and acts from other parts of Spain coming for this inauguration event. It's also being filmed for live television broadcast, and the local radio stations will be there as well. So if you're on the island next Friday and you fancy something different to do that won't cost you anything, go along and enjoy Arrecife en Vivo. Thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate every single view we get. If you haven't already subscribed to our newsletter, you'll see a link to it in the description below. I think you'll enjoy it if you're a genuine Lanzarote lover, as I am. If you've got any questions about this video or anything to do with Lanzarote, leave a comment below. I read every single comment, and I will always do my best to answer your questions. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Have a great weekend, and bye for now. Bye.